podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Ed, how the heck are you?
Very good, yeah. I might be embarrassed if I was Louis van Gaal, but no, we beat the Scousers. We talked last week about whether if you are an anti-Louis van Gaal type of fan, whether you'd want United to win. And I said, no, I don't care how we win. I want United to win, so it's fantastic. Win at Anfield is always great. One of the more fortunate wins at Anfield in United's history.
Oh, I don't know about history. Remember John O'Shea?
I remember that. It was very similar.
Yeah, it really was. My goodness. A ridiculous smash and grab affair, which we will come on to in some detail later in the show. As is Rankcast tradition, we will start with the earliest match of the week. And that was an absolutely bananas affair between Manchester's and Newcastle United's. What did you make of United's free-flowing, freewheeling football?
Yeah, that's not one to try and say after a couple of pints. So I think it kind of confirms my thesis that United only have two ways of playing, really ultra-defensive or totally chaotic. And this was in the other camp, wasn't it? So much more open, but as a result, a disaster at the back, letting the lead slip, twice?
Yeah.
Against Newcastle, including the equaliser, so, a point and a bit more entertainment. It's kind of funny, isn't it? You start thinking, well, that's pretty disappointing because it's 2 points dropped away at the third worst team in the division. But we did actually get some goals.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole interesting thing, and Van Gaal was talking about it on his Friday press conference before the Liverpool game, saying that the fan reaction to him this week has been a lot. People all seem to be happy, and they were not that disappointed because they'd like to see their team trying. And he said, of course, from his perspective, he has to see it differently. You only need to score one more goal than the opposition. So he was tremendously disappointed, and understandably so. United should absolutely have put that game to rest. A chance for Fellaini and a chance for Lingard, which were, especially that Lingard chance, you got to call that a sitter, really, haven't you, in professional football?
Yeah, and Van Gaal's reaction, oh dear is the right word, and it was really only a matter of time before he got substituted, wasn't it? And it just felt vindictive. I mean, look, he didn't actually have a bad game, Lingard, so he was pulled off simply because he missed that chance.
I thought his legs were going a bit, to be honest. I thought he looked kind of tired and leggy, and he's not played tons of football of late, so it kind of made sense in that regard. But the Van Gaal's reaction definitely made it look like there was more to it than that.
Look, stop with your Van Gaal defending-ism. I'll have none of that, thank you.
Yeah. United would have none of the defending either. See what I did there? This is the Marouane Fellaini factor, isn't it? I mean, football is multifactorial. Chris Smalling's form has sort of slightly fallen off a cliff, and he had a poor game. But this complete inability United have when Fellaini plays to control the midfield in any way, shape or form.
The thing that is so infuriating about this is there should be no surprise about it. Has there been an occasion in which Fellaini has been good from that deep-lying midfield position? He just can't do it. He doesn't tackle. His tackle rate from a defensive midfield position is 0.5 tackles per game. All right, he does better at interceptions. It's 0.6 interceptions per game. He cannot play that position. He can't get around. He's not mobile enough. He doesn't know how to cover the space. It's not as if he's just kind of intelligent with it like Michael Carrick. He does none of the things that you need from a player playing in a defensive midfield position. When you put him there, it's a disaster most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he was obviously very useful at one key moment against Liverpool, but it was generally speaking the same story against Liverpool. The goals were good against Newcastle. A very early penalty. Loads of debate about whether that was a penalty or not. I have no understanding whatsoever why anyone would ever say that's anything other than a definite penalty.
Yeah, well, See, it's all about whether so Law 12, God, it's so boring, this, isn't it? Really boring. I'm boring myself even talking about it. But Law 12 just talks about deliberate handball. Of course, there was a directive in 2009 saying that the way that referees should interpret that is whether the arm is in an unnatural position. So I don't know whether it's unnatural if you're jumping or not. Either way, it was pretty soft. It was very lucky. Let's just put it that way. Very fortunate for United to get that penalty because it's come out of absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that was Fellaini as well, doing the thing that he does well, being a bother in the box, and earned that pen. And Wayne made it 2 penalties in a row. That's pretty impressive for him. And then there was the second goal that followed swiftly on its heels, which was absolutely gorgeous through ball from Herrera, who's not been in the best form of late, so that was really nice to see. And then Rooney, I thought should probably have shot, but instead he pulled a superb reverse pass to Lingard, who had a gorgeous, easy angle to tap it home. A very nice goal. I'm kind of describing it in detail because we don't score many very nice goals, really, do we?
Almost never. In fact, we scored 2 very nice goals in this one game. So, Rooney providing the assist there and then scored a belter later in the game to, what's he got now? 4 goals, 5 goals?
I think it's
since New Year.
5 goals in 4 games, I think, but 2 of them are penalties.
2 penalties, but the other 3, Stoke, the little flick, the long-range shot against Newcastle, and then we'll come on to it, but the fine finish against Liverpool equals 3 very fine goals indeed from Rooney from open play. That said, so 2 goals for Rooney against Newcastle. A lot of talk about that, man of the match award and all that. Was he really actually that good?
Should we just save the Rooney was he actually that good talk for this week? Because it's a valid question, but we've spent so much of this season having a pop at him, and he scored so many goals. We should probably just let him off the hook, I think.
Yeah. All right. Spoiling my fun there, Paul. Well, look. Okay, let's put it this way. United did not spoil the supporters' fun. So all those fans who travelled up to Newcastle on a Tuesday night of all nights got some entertainment at least, and that's what we've been asking for, And I guess what you want is that type of game to be a top of the table clash. And a vital point earned, not actually against a really abysmal team that had lost its last 5 games in a row. And couldn't score for toffee in those games either. So there are lots of things to not be happy about in that game. And Van Gaal wasn't very happy afterwards, and I think he's right. Then again, I'm not sure I quite understand Louis and his assessment of games because I rarely agree with what he's saying.
His assessment of the game was not the thing that stole the headlines from his post-match press conference after that game, of course. There was an actual bust-up with a journalist. There's been a lot of talk of sort of supposed storming out of press conferences and stuff, but this time he actually did turn on a journalist, whom I believe I wasn't there, but whom I believe he saw doing an impression of him. And let's just say that wouldn't be the first time that he'd done an impression of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Custis of the Sun here. I think the worst part about this whole thing, so he called him a fat man. And the worst part about this is that he's actually gone and created some kind of sympathy for the Sun. Maybe not quite sympathy, but he might have put them in a better light than is fair. Really, of course, he shouldn't have called him a fat man. He should have called him a fat. That would have been much more accurate.
Okay, sorry about that, Tom. Yeah, the Sun, not a nice newspaper, but you probably shouldn't just fat shame people in public. I think that's probably not ideal.
Fat shaming, yeah. Well, of course, I guess this. I can understand Van Gaal's anger because it's the same paper that did that ridiculous back page a few weeks ago in which they kind of mocked Van Gaal for asking for an apology from the media.
Yeah, and I strongly suspect that what happened. I think I know exactly what happened. To be honest, based on some past experience, Van Gaal, when he talks to journalists, he quite often says "you," and then occasionally he'll correct himself and sort of go, "Maybe not you, but your colleagues," And after the thing, it's not unheard of to see that being replicated among the press corps. So I suspect he just saw him do that and was angry, and as is kind of fair enough because he was basically being mocked to not quite his face, but just behind his back.
Well, yeah, quite quite. Of course, it won't help Van Gaal's position much. He's not getting a lot of good press, and I suppose that's the way the club likes it because it keeps the copy off Ed Woodward, and the Glazers, which is of course where a lot of the copy should be aimed, not just Van Gaal. They've built the structure that's allowing Van Gaal to fail. Interesting lot of gossip this week about Alex Ferguson potentially returning in some kind of fatherly figure type role for Ryan Giggs, interpreted by many as the class of 92's move for power, and a strange power dynamic being created in the boardroom and executive management of Manchester United here, where basically Ed Woodward and Alex Ferguson are in different camps. Woodward supporting Van Gaal, Ferguson for a while called off the dogs, so say the gossip mongers, when there was some thought that Mourinho might come to United. Now that's been seen off. He's called on the dogs again, which is why Paul Scholes attacked last weekend.
Yeah, I wonder about all that, to be honest. I'm not sure you need to be super Machiavellian to know why Paul Scholes flipped out after the Sheffield United game. Like, every single supporter in the ground felt like flipping out after that game. So I'm not at all convinced that that's part of some shadowy conspiracy, the timing of that. I think it's just that United were rubbish. Interesting, though, in terms of all that gossip, that immediately after that Fergie Cabal story broke, the Times went with an exclusive that Mourinho is being lined up in the summer. So you wonder, was that Woodward counter-briefing against Ferguson?
Most probably, it's the smart news, the smart money now is on this kind of political battle at United. It never used to happen, but it is now, and you do wonder whether Ferguson's actually playing his own hand here and not the club. Not that he would do that.
That doesn't sound like him.
Think about himself first. No, definitely not. So of course, all speculation and gossip. Daniel Taylor in The Guardian said United are suspicious of Mourinho, and it would take a massive move in the opposite direction for them to appoint him.
It's just,
so what do we know? Hey, everyone's briefing against everyone else.
Van Gaal has drifted out to 1-2 from 1-3 in the weekly check on what price you can get on Van Gaal to be the next manager to go. Remy Gard come in a long way to 4-1, having drifted. He was way further out than that previously. And McLaren's had a good week, 16-1 now from I think 12-1 when we talked about this last week.
So I wouldn't put it past Lerner to fire Remy Gard, but interesting, I don't know the answer to this. How many clubs in a relegation battle that sack two managers in a season make it out of the relegation battle?
I wonder if this isn't actually just not about, because it's manager to leave, because I think with Remy Gard there's just a chance he'll just leave because it's such a shambles at Villa, although they won a game and then they drew at home with Leicester, so things are, stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. Yeah, actually, the results this weekend, not bad for United. So, aside from the win at Anfield, we'll have a chat about that. And but other results going United's way, especially with Leicester drawing, just going off the ball a little bit. Missed quite a few chances there. Vardy had a very good chance late in the game, which you would have expected him to bury earlier in the season. A couple of penalty shouts going against them. You do wonder whether this is the time that their campaign halts a little bit.
I mean, you'd think it's somewhat inevitable, right? But we shall see, because it looked like that was happening a few weeks ago, and then they steadied the ship rather. So we'll see. We'll see where they go from here. It's been just absolutely fascinating, the whole situation around them this season. And because immediately before that Villa game, of course, they got that late winner at Tottenham, which is a massive result.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, look, they've got 7 points on United at the moment. A lot of games to go, of course. So 16 games to go in the season. Spurs playing well, generally speaking, but United's win on Sunday, a very important one. So if Liverpool had won that game and given the pattern of the game, you wouldn't have said it was unfair if they had. They'd been level on points with United, and United would have had 5 points to Tottenham. A big gap given the goal difference as well in Tottenham's favour. So, huge win at Anfield for United. Just needed that momentum, badly needed that momentum, and got it going into what you'd think is a winnable game next weekend.
Yeah, and Arsenal drew at Stoke, so the league's still on, lads.
Good one, yes.
Maybe not. I did some research for a Bleacher Report article this week, where I was asked to sort of come up with a number of how many trophies United would win this season, and I was thinking about it for ages. I was like, I think the number is 0, and then of course you come up with that hypothesis and you've got to back it up, right? So the league was somewhat easy to back up because I went through the last 10 seasons and who was top after 21 games. Which is what had been played at the time, and United had 11 points fewer than any team that had gone on to win the league in the last 10 seasons from that position, and no one else, and 8 out of the 10 teams that have been top after 21 games in the last 10 seasons have gone on to win the league, and the other 2 teams were second by 2 points and I think goal difference, so incredibly unlikely that United win the league from here.
It is, yeah. Although it's very hard comparing seasons against each other, of course, because the dynamics very different. So, the fact that United are, in fact, only 7 points behind the league leaders after 22 games, leagues have definitely been won from further than 7 points out.
But
we have won leagues.
We have, although in 2002-03, we were 5 points behind Arsenal after 21 games. So there you go. But yeah, it's very rare that there's teams that claw back that kind of leads after this stage of the season, it would seem. Although, of course, it's ridiculous because it's kind of arbitrary. It's an arbitrary line in the sand, isn't it? Because how many points were we ahead of City with like 5 games to go?
Well, exactly. Yeah, 8. So yes, just on the numbers, United could win the league. Let's just have a really wild bet here. United are not going to win the league. I think it's very tight for 4th, very tight. But you just look at United's form. So if it's a clean slate and you were starting from here, you wouldn't bet on United finishing in the top 4 either. So, and it's not a clean slate. United have got a couple of points and a goal difference to Spurs, who have better momentum. I mean, we'll see. There's some really big games coming up. We play Arsenal, City and Chelsea again, don't we, before the end of the season, and Spurs, and that'll be a big game, as well as Leicester. So play all the teams around us, and those are the games that I guess are going to decide whether United make the top 4. One thing you would say, though, this season, United have more points against the top 6 than any other team, right? So partly because of the fixtures, but partly just good results against the top 6 this season, which is interesting, and you could say might swing things in United's favour. I'm still betting on 5th if I had money on it, which I don't. Maybe I should. Yeah,
I mean it's horrible, isn't it? Either way, this is a huge indictment on Van Gaal that we're having this conversation halfway through his second season, because this season was supposed to be about progress. Indeed, it was supposed to be about building on the progress that he did make last season. That had dipped off again by the end of the season, but we thought there were mitigating circumstances for that. But you compare the 2 performances at Anfield, and the regression is horrific. We absolutely battered them in that 2-1 win for all but about half an hour of the second half. This time, it was just a dismal game of football.
Yeah, very, very poor quality. I mean, even United gave the ball away a lot, much lower percentage of successful passes than is typical of United, actually a lot less possession. The one constant, of course, were very few shots on target from United, so just the one shot on target. It certainly counted this time. Very interesting thing I saw on Twitter. We have managed in the last 2 games against Liverpool at Anfield, 4 shots on target. Scored them all.
No, it's against Liverpool. It's not at Anfield. It's this season. Yeah.
This season,
We've had 4 shots on target against them and scored 4 goals and beat them both times. Van Gaal with a perfect record against Liverpool. I suspect that's going to be the last time we play him, so he's going to finish his career at United with a perfect record against them.
Well, we'll give him that. The game was just horrendous quality. I mean, it's not a good Liverpool side. They came into the game without a proper striker. Firmino, I know Klopp says he is a forward, but he's really not. If they hadn't been so wasteful, Liverpool could have won the game easily. They had a lot of shots. It's just not too many really good chances, I suppose you'd say. Both teams had very low XG, 0.8 to 0.7, so, it tells you something about the quality of finishing in the game. And I suppose if Lallana and Milner and Firmino were just, a little sharper, then United would have lost that game because of the amount of chances Liverpool created through open play. But, and two very good saves by De Gea as well.
Yep.
Kept United in it, and it was. I'm not sure if it was quite as funny as the victory at Arsenal last season. Maybe it was. I mean, because it was a pretty dreadful performance by United. Let's be honest.
It was funnier because it's Liverpool, right? That's how the breakdown works. Like, it's funnier to beat Liverpool than beat Arsenal.
The only thing I'd say is that Liverpool were on top in this game. But it's not like De Gea had to make a load of saves, which is the point Van Gaal was making after the game. Very badly he made it. It made it sound like it was criticism of De Gea. He's trying to say De Gea didn't have to make too many saves, which is true. He didn't. And it was because of Liverpool's wastefulness, not some tactical brilliance by Van Gaal, who managed to bend the ball away from goal with his genius. Although I suppose Edward will be briefing as such after the game. So, United were fortunate that Liverpool was so wasteful or are so crap. One of the two.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Because the first half, I think it was the first half of the game earlier this season at Old Trafford that Gary Neville called it the dog and duck against some other pub. I can't remember what he said. But,
yeah, it wasn't as good as that.
This is the thing. No, I mean that was absolutely atrocious, that first half, and most of this game was. Bar, I thought, a 20-minute spell in the second half in which the goal fell, where United actually looked a lot better. It was after Young got injured, and the brilliant tweet from one of I think it was Oliver Kay, who tweeted Van Gaal has got a problem now because he's got two specialist fullbacks playing in their right position.
Yeah, well, quite. Cameron Borthwick-Jackson, who we are told has the record number of letters in a surname, equal record number of letters in a surname of any player in the Premier League, equaling Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink, and some player who played for Cardiff, who no one can actually remember his name.
Right.
But he had a very good time when he came on. I thought he looked very good. Again, he's a very composed player, and you know what? He can actually put a cross in too.
Yeah, and Darmian just looked transformed by the switch to right back. I thought he was much, much better at right back than he'd been at left back.
Call me crazy, and because I'm not a football genius manager.
Yep.
Sorry, Ed, if you were looking at me as the replacement for Louis.
We've got a Twitter question about that.
Yeah, very good. Maybe I'm just a bit crazy here, but does players playing in their proper position, not square pegs in round holes, as Paul Scholes put it, actually help United?
I mean, it's a bit ironic for the shadowy Ferguson cabal to be complaining about players being played out of position, isn't it? That doesn't seem fair.
Have we moved on from the Illuminati to the cabal now?
Yeah, that's it. The shadowy Fergie cabal. The change made a big difference. Fellaini stayed on for 90 minutes, which ended up being a good thing, but was just really bizarre. The away fans getting really cross when Van Gaal took off Herrera, presumably instead of Fellaini. That's presumably why they were cross. Herrera did not have a good game, though, so you could understand it. But yeah, there was a point really early in the game where it looked like Fellaini might have picked up an injury. He was going to drop Herrera into central midfield and bring Mata on, and that would have been really interesting to see how that would have changed the game. But
well, look, United would have just been better with the ball, so I don't think we'd have been more open. Fellaini does nothing defensively, nothing at all. Well, 0.5 tackles on average a game. So, he just doesn't help there. So he does, if it's a very low quality game, it's a bit scrappy, I guess, that's him. He's low quality and scrappy. So maybe that helps. I think he's got two qualities, the left elbow and the right elbow, and he really needs to use them both more.
No, you can't. We have this conversation every time. You cannot diss Fellaini's world-class chest control.
And the world-class chest control. Look, I don't wish injury on any player, but if someone was to do a Tonya Harding on him, it wouldn't be a bad thing, would it?
I mean, I wouldn't like it because that would be sad. But the thing about him is he's such a useful weapon to have in your squad. Like, you bring him on after 75 minutes and stick him up front and terrify the life out of everyone. This is not a bad strategy. You know, it really is not a bad strategy, but to use him as the kind of linchpin of your midfield, it's just upsetting.
You know, I never quite agree with this. You know, I know you need to be able to mix up the tactics depending on the game. I'm not sure Van Gaal's in-game management is anything special. You know, he seems to go to his playbook every single time, doesn't he? But I'm not sure that if the best strategy for United scoring a goal is to whack it long at Fellaini, that we shouldn't start with that. And it's just, to be honest, it just doesn't make any sense. And actually, what's happened in recent games is Van Gaal starts out with a pretty conservative strategy and then ends up bringing pace on the wings because it's not working. How about starting like that?
I'm not talking about... Oh, yeah, that's a thing we didn't mention at Newcastle. Memphis made a really big difference again. You were saying last week that he's going to have a bit of a problem if he keeps making a difference as an impact sub. He'll get known as one. But I'm not talking about bringing Fellaini on and launching it to him. I'm talking about bringing Fellaini on to, first of all, like, give an option at set pieces, and secondly, to cause the kind of trouble that he causes in the box, which is not just when you launch it to him, but he is kind of an awkward player to deal with, partly because of those elbows, partly because of that chest control.
Yeah, and he actually managed to get a header almost on target against Liverpool, which contributed to the goal, of course, you know, so give him that. I mean, he's not a great header of the ball either, because he just can't jump because he's so bloody big. But you're right, in the box, he's awkward. He's awkward, and he does great chances, scrappy chances for United. It's the wrong comparison, I know, but I'm going to make it anyway, right? Could you see Fellaini at Barcelona and Barcelona being desperate enough to start launching it at him in the last 15 minutes of a crucial cup tie or something, you know? No, right? So elite clubs generally do not launch it at the big man because he's a bit scrappy in the box as a strategy. Generally not.
No, sure. But it's not the worst option to have, is it? Fellaini's a player that has a destructive tendency and the ability to make a...
Yeah, normally on United's ability to defend soundly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing. No one is disagreeing with that, that's for sure. The Liverpool game was notable for a few things. First of all, the makeup of the away support, the absolute goonage in that end when that goal went in. I can imagine as an away supporter, there's nothing quite as sweet as a smash and grab victory at the home of your most hated rivals. And of course, Phil Jones, Marcus Rocco and Michael Carrick all in that away end. Carrick tweeting that he thought he was going to be thrown down 3 rows after the goal went in.
Yeah. So, quick question for you, Paul. Did they just get lucky in the ballot, or did Wayne Rooney sell his ticket?
Listen, 3 seats in the ballot can go to Man United players. I think
it's like that time Neville was in the way end, you know. Yeah, he got lucky in the loyalty pot, didn't he? Anyway, yes, no, look, it's fair enough, and it's a nice touch, and I guess maybe just a little bit PR inspired. I wonder whether Mr. Woodward's had a word after they've been busy tweeting about films all week.
Carrick talked about it on the Graham Hunter podcast as well, and it's something that Fletcher and Ashley Young did, and I think it's the sort of thing that the players who are football fans do. You know, the players who grew up as football fans, and United's away sport really is a special thing, right? I know, and I don't really mean to sound cynical. It's just there's everything about this club just feels a little bit false sometimes, and it would be nice to not feel that this was some kind of nice PR move, and it was just a thing that the players wanted to do. So I hope it's that. It's the away end at Anfield. Like, I don't think you do that for PR, right? You do a much easier, less intense game if you were going to just do it for PR purposes, I think.
What I did like was Phil Jones going mental.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
was very nice.
I think it was real, man. I think it was real. Unlike the remarkable shared enthusiasm for a film which I'm not even going to name. I'm not going to see it, just out of spite.
I know. So the film that we shall not name, the director has done some good stuff in the past. So
yes, but
this might well be a film that I would typically like go and see, but now I'm going to download it off the internet for free.
At FBI, But no, I think it's not okay for people to pretend to be talking about something just apropos of nothing without talking about it being an advert. That shouldn't be okay, should it?
No, it shouldn't. This is native advertising gone wrong, I think, especially when they're being paid to do it. So, and look, social media team. I don't know whether it's 20th Century Fox. You're probably not listening, but if you are, just make it feel a bit more natural, because this is crap native advertising as well. Just really, really bad, because they all tweeted the same bloody thing. Did you think no one would notice?
One of two phrases. But, of course, thinking nobody would notice isn't really the point, is it? Because there are benefits to native advertising gone wrong, because it gets picked up and talked about, and, those tweets were shared far and wide, and brand awareness for that movie goes up when you do that, right? But that does explain why the 20th Century Fox music's been playing at Old Trafford recently.
Yes. Well, and you said you were disappointed they weren't playing Star Wars. Of course, it was sold. Although 20th Century Fox do have the rights to the previous film, so they are re-releasing episodes 2 and 3. They are 2 and 3 of the worst films ever made and known to man, but they're re-releasing them in 3D if you really feel like it.
3's all right.
It's almost a real film. The other 2 are a joke.
Oh my God, that second one. That second one is just... Yeah, anyway, I thought The Force Awakens was all right. Have you seen it?
Yeah, no, I have, and it was actually a proper film. So 3 is like United's performance against Chelsea. It's like you're kind of almost getting there. 2 was like United's performance against, I don't know, Stoke or Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
Right, no, right. Yeah, no, Stoke, you're right. That was...
Yeah, one was home to Norwich.
I'm trying to work out what the Liverpool game was, because it's like it was really scrappy all the way through, but then had a surprisingly triumphant ending, which left you feeling brilliant. Some terrible rom-com, I guess. All right, here's an interesting question from @JBonser. Is the risk worth the reward with Fellaini? He played horribly today, but got the assist.
No, because you just have a player who plays well and gets the assist. It's just
true.
not mutually
right.
exclusive.
That is such a sound point. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about that Liverpool game?
No, look, it's a great result. It's great for United in terms of the league position. It's great because it's beating Liverpool. It was another abysmal performance, but it's the kind of performance we expect from United all the time. It's not as if that was even tactical. And the last point, and this might just be me, and I don't want to speak for everyone here, but increasingly, Van Gaal's sort of charm in press conferences that I liked when he first came to the club annoys me. And, he was kind of almost crowing about the result after the game. Saying he's happy and we're all happy and the fans are very happy. We are, but what we'd like is some good football as well. Because these things, much like Fellaini playing and getting assists, good football and winning are not mutually exclusive. In fact, most of the best teams do it by playing good football. That's what I'd like to see, Louis, and there's no progress towards that whatsoever.
No, he definitely should just be binned off as soon as possible, but it's not going to happen. I really would just take gigs for the rest of the season at this point. That is how depressing I've found the football of late. That Sheffield United game absolutely broke me, and there's been nothing in the Newcastle and Liverpool games to show any difference, except I guess you could say that the players showed some decent spirit. But if you can't show some decent spirit at Anfield, and I have to say, we've got a question here from @BarcaJim that says, so that Rooney fella, hell of a guy, am I right? And I was happy for Rooney. It's a record-breaking goal for him. It's the most goals scored in the Premier League era by a player at one club. So,
how many arbitrary records can you squeeze together in one thing?
I mean,
yes.
You can always argue that the Premier League era is an arbitrary indicator, but in some ways it's quite useful to have a differentiator between the contemporary era of football and that which has gone before, because the game's changed so much. Although I'm not sure 1992 would be where you would put that, but it is a hell of a record nonetheless. It's a lot of goals and a lot of service, and I like it when he has these little life-affirming moments in amongst the obvious decline, like the one-on-one versus Colaccini against Newcastle, the failure to outpace Kolo Touré against Liverpool. He's gone, but he's still got spectacular technique in his locker when he's on form.
Yeah. I mean, as those 3 goals, the flick against Stoke, the long range shot against Newcastle, and the very well taken volley against Liverpool, all 3 fine goals. I don't think there was much else from him in any of those games, but look, you can't argue with it. 5 goals since the new year. It's one of his bursts of goal scoring. There were some odd comments from journalists about one from Oliver Holt saying all the talk about him being dropped or sold will stop now. Well, he's got 6 Premier League goals all year for United's principal striker. I'm not sure that's good enough. So no, sorry, Ollie. United can do better, and the summer will be a good time to reassess a lot of things, including, as you mentioned, Van Gaal. It's amazing. We talked about the briefing, the counter briefing. The word that there are some doubts about Ryan Giggs at the club. Is he quite ready? Other people saying that they're pretty sure the decision has now been made. Giggs will be given the job in the summer, and Van Gaal is no more. And certainly the weight of evidence now feels like Van Gaal is not going to make it beyond the summer.
No, unless the rest of the season is absolutely remarkable, which it doesn't show too many signs of being.
Look, tell me a club in the history of all football that has gone from being utterly rubbish for 2/3 of a season and just suddenly switching it on. We're going to get exactly the same thing from now until the end of the season. I guess it's just about the balance of results. Does he manage to pull off a 50% win rate or a 60% win rate between now? And that's it, right? Because the football and the quality of it is going to be dire. There are going to be a few moments in between, but not much.
Yeah, and to just briefly come back to the Rooney thing, I've been thinking a lot about this, and the more I think about it, the more I think that the thing that winds me up about Rooney is nothing to do with him and is all about the stuff surrounding him. It's about the journalists and the pundits, and it's about the managers like Moyes and Van Gaal and the way they've treated Rooney in public. And I was thinking about what a massive disservice it is to Rooney to make him undroppable and to play him every week, every game, regardless of what's going on for his physicality, at a point in his career where he's clearly physically declining. Like, what about sensible management? How is he's not going to prolong his career playing every week when he can't outpace Kolo Touré anymore, is he?
No. I mean, look, it's... There was a time when we felt that Rooney was right at the top of the football tree, right? One of the elite players. And we saw the Ballon d'Or this week, and Messi won it from Ronaldo and Neymar. And he's just nowhere near it. I'm assuming he didn't come in the top 100 in the voting, because who the hell would have voted for him? So, and he's a year older than Ronaldo, or a year younger than Ronaldo, actually. And so... That kind of puts it in context. He's so far burnt out. There are great moments still, I guess. 5 goals since the new year is great. He might stop scoring against Southampton and not score again till the end of the season, of course.
I mean, he's one of the great talents of his generation, and he's had one of the remarkable careers of his generation, and it's clearly in decline. But I find it super uplifting to see him find a bit of that again. But it is only a bit of that. He's not running games, is he? Friend of the Rantcast, at Liz Worsley, says, how many injuries did Phil Jones pick up celebrating with the away fans? Loads of questions about the lads being in with the away fans.
The way those elbows were flying around, I think Jonesy might have scored a few injuries on the fans, actually.
I was worried about Rocco. I was worried they're all kind of slightly breakable, all those fans, and it was genuine goonage, wasn't it?
Very nice to see, very nice.
As soon as Wayne Rooney scored, asks at Blabber1, what did Van Gaal write down in his notepad?
Special privileges.
Yeah, he just was like tallying up like how many more games. He gets like 5 more starting berths for every goal he scores.
Yeah, he's writing down names of journalists he wants to have a go at. Actually, that was one of the weirder things. Custis saying that he's not criticised Rooney in some kind of defence of himself. I was like, objective journalism. This guy's been dreadful for half a season. You should have criticised him, mate.
Yeah. At Sporting Glasses says, repeat that play/score for the rest of the season, meaning the Liverpool game, or repeat the Newcastle 3-3 pattern of play and score for the rest of the season. Obviously, you repeat the wins if you can guarantee them, but the problem is you're less likely to win if you play really dull football, and especially if you play really dreadful, dull football.
Look, it's a kind of weird question in a way, because, again, this is not mutually exclusive. The best teams normally play the best football, right? Not always, and there are plenty of examples of teams over the years that have won trophies by playing dull, unimaginative, safe, negative football, of course. But most of the times, the best teams and the ones that are remembered and the ones that entertain the fans are the teams that won playing really good football. You know, there's no, even if Van Gaal said after the game today, United can still win the title. Even if United did, by winning, enough games, sort of 1-0 between now and the end of the season, there's no way in 20 years anyone remembers this team, except for a dreadful team,
United outscored the rest of the Premier League in 4 of their last 5 league title wins. The only one they didn't was that season when Liverpool came second and scored tons and tons of goals. Not the Moyes season where they came second, where they came second to us. But yeah, every other one of the 4 out of the last 5 league title wins, United substantially outscored the rest of the league. Or at least outscored them, and often substantially. At Wheeler55, touching on something we got close to earlier, but not quite. What was funnier, us winning that match or Gerrard getting sent off last season? It's got to be Gerrard, hasn't it?
Yeah, the Schadenfreude was strong with that one, yeah. Oh, it's still a wonderful moment.
It was kind of didn't get too many outings, that song, I suppose, because of how dreadful United were, until United went 1-0 up, and then it was just off the hook. Yeah. At KingyLad7 says, is it true that you and Ed are being lined up as United's new management team? I can neither confirm nor deny these rumours that are going around on the internet.
Yeah, if the Class 92 are the cabal, what are we?
We're just quietly pulling the strings in the background. That's what we're doing.
We know what's going to happen with the club through the influence of our words through this here podcast. No, really.
Absolutely nothing is what's going to happen. At Quatchit, with an interesting question as the transfer window marches on with absolutely no sign of any activity. Do you think FIFA has raised fans' expectation too high when it comes to transfers and building a winning team and style? You sometimes wonder about that stuff, but
I don't know. I don't play this kind of stuff enough for it to really enter my world view of football. So from my point of view, no, not in the slightest. But I suppose, people playing Football Manager and FIFA and stuff like that think you can just kind of randomly buy a team, or maybe you're a kind of, petro oligarch like Roman Abramovich, and you make that kind of thing real. Maybe. But no, look, the reality of the transfer window is there's very rarely a good transfer made in the winter, I suppose. There are exceptions to that rule. Wanamata joined a couple of seasons ago, mixed time since then. Andy Cole, years and years back, joined not in the winter window because it didn't exist then, sort of more like March or something, wasn't it?
Ever and Vidic are the classics.
Ever and Vidic are the classic ones, yeah. So occasionally, United would be transformed with a world-class striker. And a world-class defender, preferably both, and maybe a right winger as well.
Chris, I'm not going for. At C Pasciali, I reckon. He says, talking of all this, what is your greatest Football Manager achievement? And do you think you would beat LVG at the game? I don't know about any more. That game's got heck of complicated. But my greatest Football Manager achievement is winning the Champions League with Dagenham and Redbridge.
That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was a long time ago now. I had a lot more time then. You did similar, right? What was that team that you made the best team in the world? Began with a T, Italian team.
Oh yeah, God. Actually, I can't remember. Some tiny Italian team. This is, it was that long ago. My memory is going, but yeah, you could do it then. The last game of Football Manager I played a couple of years ago was extremely complex, and I just couldn't find the time to actually dedicate to it, so I haven't really played it in a while. What with being a family man and all of that and having a busy job. But
yes, I reckon I could beat LVG at it, but he would probably beat me at actually being a Football Manager.
How do you think he'd handle the press conferences?
He would just click storm out on everyone. You can type in your own thing now, like whatever you want. So you just type "you fat man" and then just click storm out. Right, so Southampton. It's the grudge match. It's the Algarve grudge match. Koeman against Van Gaal. big house against even bigger house.
Yeah, and Southampton had a strange season, really, sort of mid-table now.
The weirdest.
Started the campaign really badly and mixed results ever since, really, but won 3-0 at the weekend. Very impressive, I thought, actually, in beating West Brom. Looked like it's coming together, and just signed a couple of strikers this week as well. So they're on the up. I think there's a bit of momentum with them. Clearly, they're not having the season that they had last season. But for a team that has lost a lot of players over the last 2 years, they're doing all right.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they beat Arsenal 4-0 on Boxing Day, it was kind of a weird game, but it's a bit of a worry, isn't it? Did they beat us at Old Trafford last season? I'm pretty sure I remember that.
Right, yeah. But they've lost to Norwich and Palace recently, so it's as I said, mixed results. Inconsistent team
for sure. I mean, this is always the thing, but there's inconsistent teams, and then there's losing to Norwich and beating Arsenal 4-0. That's a particularly intense type of
inconsistency.
Inconsistency, yeah, that's the word. But yeah, they come off the back of 2 good wins in a row, 2-0 against Watford and 3-0 against West Bromwich. Those are big, comfortable victories at home. They haven't won a game away from home. Sunderland on the 7th of November, and we all know that Sunderland, like Aston Villa, does not count.
No, that's right, and they've got 3 big games coming up, United, Arsenal and West Ham. So some toughies for them, and they'll want points out of some of this, because otherwise, there's a risk that they're dragged, if not into the relegation zone, then down the table. I mean, they've got enough points on Swansea, Sunderland and Villa, I suppose, but, it could go the wrong way for them. Again, inconsistency. Maybe Charlie Austin starts scoring goals and they pick up some wins.
Yeah.
Hopefully not at Old Trafford.
That seems like a fantastic signing for them. I mean, someone that scored a lot of goals in a really terrible team in the Premier League for not very much money at all. It's a very low risk signing, isn't it?
It is very low risk, and at $4 million, QPR turned down an £11 million bid in the summer. They could possibly be, now take this with a pinch of salt, but maybe they're a worse run club when it comes to transfers than United. Maybe.
Van Gaal said after whatever game it was last weekend, that no action in the January transfer window, really, probably, unless something remarkable happens.
What do you mean? Are we not signing Bale and Neymar and Ronaldo? Well, maybe not Ronaldo and Bale anymore, since FIFA handed down a 2 transfer window ban to Real Madrid. It doesn't come in this winter, so it's the summer and the next winter window that it covers. But you'd expect Real Madrid, pending appeals and all of that, to not be selling any top players anymore.
Yeah, so it's super interesting, isn't it? Like, so Wenger said, well, they'll just appeal it, and they'll have this summer almost certainly, and then maybe even if they lose their appeal, it'll be next winter transfer window and the summer transfer window after that. It's obviously, if it is brought in from this summer coming, Bale and Ronaldo aside, that is great news for United, isn't it? Because it means De Gea's not going anywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, absolutely, yeah. At least for another year. So, we hang on to him for another year. The press reports this week, just before the FIFA news came out, that Madrid were confident of getting him in the summer. Talk of clauses and all that kind of stuff, which would be very unusual in England, much more likely to be a gentleman's agreement or something like that. But
right.
We'll see. So Barcelona did the same thing. They delayed, went to the Court of Arbitration and Sport and still lost. So you'd expect Real Madrid's bluster at the moment. It's always bluster coming out of Real Madrid, that they've done nothing wrong. They'll appeal it and they're very confident, etc. and so on. Would turn out to be false, and they will get this ban eventually. But if they can drag it out beyond the summer, they might have a very big summer, buy a lot of players and try and wait it out for a year. And
maybe get rid of one of their big players as well, because they sometimes do have to sell to buy big, don't they? They're not super cash rich in the way that United are.
Yeah, and we do ever so well with that cash richness, don't we?
Yeah, well, let's just buy Bale, take him off their hands, get rid of the problem. He's doing very well for Zinedine Zidane, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, Zidane in his first 2 games, he's a freshman manager, scored 10 goals. Not bad at all. I was.
I mean, Benitez managed that in one game about 6 weeks ago.
Shush. Such a bizarre appointment that was, Benitez. You know, he's done some good things in his career, Rafael Benitez, but Benitez and Real Madrid just does not feel like a good marriage, does it? I mean, you know, if there's ever a club in which attacking football is demanded, it's Real Madrid.
You know, there's things where you think, well, that's not going to work out, is it? But then you think, oh, well, see what happens. Then there's things where it's like, you look at it going, is this some sort of elaborate tax fraud or something? Like, why? What possible rationale is there? Is that the only way they could justify giving Zidane the job? Like, why not just give Zidane the job in the summer if that's what you were planning to do? Like, What possible course of action was there whereby Perez thought that Benitez would work out fine? Maybe he wanted to give him the whole season, but the players hated him so much he had to go early. I don't know. That's a very strange club.
Very, yeah. I was asking a question earlier in the day on Twitter about, you know, with Zidane and Giggs in mind, you know, what first-time managers at elite clubs, you know, the biggest clubs, have ever actually been successful. So Guardiola's pretty much the only one, and he was in charge of the B team. You know, it's pretty much a junior role, of course. So very few, I guess. Ajax was Louis van Gaal's first job. That's pretty successful. Would you call them an elite club? They were definitely on the precipice of falling out of that category at that time, mid-90s. I think that was like the zenith, wasn't it? And they slid down from there. So very few have been successful over the years, you know, because it's hard running a really top club.
Yeah, Cruyff, maybe. The Ajax job in 1985. That was they were a pretty big deal back then, weren't they? But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a huge rarity. I don't know. Mourinho had a little job first, didn't he, before he took over at Porto? And they're obviously not an elite club in that sense, you know.
Well, he had two jobs before he took over at Porto,
right?
And then at Porto, and the Portuguese league is one in which there are only 5 teams that get average gates of more than 6,000.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I was thinking out loud, really.
So Dalglish, a few people mentioned people like Capello and Ancelotti. Ancelotti had 3 jobs before he got his first big one. Souness at Rangers was his first job. Would you call Rangers in the Scottish League an elite club? I mean, there are just so few examples. There are examples, but just not very many. And for Ryan Giggs, if he takes over at United in the summer, you know, the word came out of his camp after his last stint, 4 games, that he actually felt quite overwhelmed by it all. You know, is he prepared this time? Is the structure around him acceptable enough that it could support him? Because right now there is no director of football. There's not even an academy head, and the head of youth player acquisition, Derek Langley, has just quit, retired, and mid sort of talk that he's frustrated with the club. That all the structures seem to have been hollowed out from the inside. And you're sticking a freshman manager in and hoping he's going to be successful. He's set up to fail if he does take over. And, you know, as brilliant as he might be and as much as he might have learned from Ferguson.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should also just point out, I've just looked it up, and Cruyff didn't win the league with Ajax, so that's not particularly good.
No, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, but
he won a couple of cups, yeah.
That whole thing is, I mean, I talked about this, I think it was last week, the collapse of a totalitarian power structure and the failure to replace it with anything else. And when Moyes came in, for all Moyes' many faults, he was attempting to do something to the structure of the club. He was kind of trying to put himself in place as a manager and put a proper network in place for scouting and all that kind of stuff, and do some work around the youth system. And I think that's maybe some of the stuff he talked about when he said, like, he would have done things differently if he thought there was any chance he would have got sacked so soon, because he did have a kind of long-term plan. But then once United pulled the ripcord on that appointment, if you're going to bring Van Gaal in for 3 years maximum, you have to address the structure of the club at that point, right? I mean, I suppose the one way they did it was by installing Giggs as assistant manager to take a 3-year training program with Van Gaal, essentially. But the rest of the stuff is falling apart in rubble, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I was thinking about this and wrote a piece on the Liverpoolization of United, and there are so many parallels with what went wrong at Anfield. And look, of course, United's revenue of 500 million, approaching 500 million pounds a year, gives a kind of cushion to the club. But I also think it's leading to some complacency that somehow the club can just spend its way out of trouble. And we've seen enough clubs where that hasn't worked as well, As strong as the relationship might be between spending and particularly wages and success, it's not a one-to-one relationship. R does not equal 1 here. And especially the way that United have been spending the money, because you wouldn't say there have been too many successes since Gill and Fergie went.
And correlation isn't never a guarantee. Like Chelsea, I think, overtook United recently as the top spenders on wages in the country. And look what's happening at Chelsea. That they're in complete freefall, not unhilarious freefall. Talking of which, did you see the Duncan Castles tweet?
Yeah, I was just kind of embarrassed for the guy, really. I mean, him and... Look, love is a beautiful thing, and him and Mourinho have a beautiful thing going on. But sometimes it's kind of embarrassing. Look, I talk to David De Gea. When your partner starts going off on one on Twitter, you sometimes want to calm them down. So if I was Mourinho, I'd say, look, Dunk. Just calm it down, because it's getting kind of embarrassing with the kind of conspiracy tweets going on.
Yeah, so if you missed this, Duncan Castles tweeted after John Terry's offside after injury time equaliser. No Jose Mourinho Chelsea team ever got a 7th minute offside equaliser. Coincidence? ? It's like, what? I don't even know if you would go as far as to call it a coincidence. It's just 2 things. But yeah, anyway, it is strange Jorge Mendes mouthpiece behaviour. It's just so odd that he was basically went on to have a kind of discussion with Sid Lowe where he was sort of saying there was genuinely an FA conspiracy against Mourinho, which I find staggering that you would believe that.
Yeah, interesting piece by Danny Taylor in The Guardian about Mourinho, saying that he's got nowhere to turn. This is the one where he said that they are suspicious at Old Trafford about Mourinho, and it mean huge about face for United to appoint him. And it looks like Paris Saint-Germain, the other obvious destination, are going to hand Laurent Blanc a new contract. They're like 50 points ahead of everyone else in France at the moment. You'd expect them to go through to the next round in the Champions League as well. So, we've got a decent Paris Saint-Germain side here. Real Madrid may or may not have wanted him, but have just appointed Zinedine Zidane. There are no other jobs in England, really. He doesn't like Italy. So, Mourinho's in a bit of a difficult position. Maybe he'll be England manager after Euro 2016.
Maybe so. Or Portugal manager, of course, although he always said he wanted to do that at the end of his career. But he might not have too many options.
The way his career's going, it might well be coming up to the end of his career. So, yeah, we'll see. Interesting times ahead. It could be some interesting movements in the managerial transfer market in the summer.
It's almost like it's not a good idea to set the building on fire every time you leave the building. It's almost like that's a life lesson that Mourinho should have learnt. He burnt all his bridges in Italy with the whole country. He burnt all his bridges at Madrid with the Casillas and Ramos thing. And he burnt all his bridges at Chelsea with whatever the last 6 months were. Not with the fans, obviously, but with the structure of the club and all the players. And he hardly... If this notion, which I'm not sure I've ever really believed, that his secret desire is to one day experience the glory of Manchester United, and he was trying to kind of improve his reputation, he's not done a particularly good job of that, has he?
No, he hasn't. No, and interesting. So, Van Gaal loses the next game to Southampton, 5-0 at home, and the players are clearly not playing for the manager anymore. And there's some word on the street that they just don't want him in place anymore. And the Glazers call from Tampa, Ed, baby, Ed, this is Woodward, not me. He's a gonna fire him. Would you have Jose?
No, I don't know. Yeah, give me something to write about.
Anyway, yeah, that's true. It would make for a lot of good copy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very hard to answer yes to that question, isn't it? Because of how... Not just the fact that it goes wrong, but how quickly it goes wrong. 1 season at Chelsea. 2 seasons, I guess. But still, it's just everything is worse after he leaves every time. So that is a big problem. And even Van Gaal doesn't have that. Even Van Gaal's disasters, things tend to pick up in his wake. But Mourinho's disasters tend to have a long tail. So I think probably not. What about you?
No, I don't want him anywhere near Old Trafford. I think I've been quite clear on that one for quite some time. I think he would be an embarrassment, even if he's guaranteed to bring trophies. Or he's at least used to be. He would be an embarrassment to the club. But United's problem, basically, is Van Gaal has been a failure. There are no other elite managers available anywhere in Europe. They're all tied up.
You're assuming Guardiola to City is just a case of dotting I's and crossing T's.
That was the news this week coming out of many reliable sources. He's sent his love letter to Old Trafford and they rejected it.
Idiots. Yep. They all want sacking if they let that happen, and that really did happen. They all want sacking.
Yeah, and very specifically because if they do get rid of Van Gaal this summer, or he's eased out to his holiday home in Portugal, they had a choice. Appoint a freshman, never before driven the F1 car, learner driver in Ryan Giggs, or the world's preeminent manager who really wanted the job. So we believe. Interesting, that one.
It's all over. It's been great. It's been lovely. All the silverware was nice. All the glory, Man United. All that stuff was gorgeous. But I think we're done for 20 years.
Hey, even if we are done.
Yeah.
Even if we are done, we just won at Anfield.
Yes! Get in! So well deserved. So very richly good. Deserved, that victory.
So, look, coming to the end of the show, we need a prediction for United. We haven't really even previewed the Southampton game. Safe to say that Southampton, I don't know which one will turn up. I definitely don't know which United will turn up, but I'm going to predict a 1-0 win for United.
Just like to say, we never actually preview the games.
It's true, because it's much more fun talking about the games just gone.
Exactly. I am going to predict... Just like all the scenarios run through your head in that split second, and it's like just absolutely anything could happen. I'm going to predict a 2-0 win to United because that sounds nice.
Wow.
I don't really think that's particularly likely, but I also don't think it's that unlikely. So
very good. Well, 2-0 to United. Good stuff. Hey, look, we've had some negativity in this podcast.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, really, because the football is dire.
Yeah.
And the only difference from week to week is whether United take the one chance that they create or not. It's a very sad state of affairs. But United won at Anfield, and Wayne Rooney is, normally dreadful against Liverpool, and the big man is back, at least for now, for the just inevitable scoring burst that he has. But, it's great. Enjoy it for a week. In the meantime, if you want to send abuse our way, you can do so at UTD Rantcast on Twitter for Paul, at United Rant for me. There's some stuff on the United Rant blog from me and mainly other people these days. I seem to have a group of writers who really like doing my kind of long-form, analytical, slightly negative analysis, or to quote someone on the forum, analyses the shit out of everything. Very good. Yes, about that. Paul is on You Max It and Bleacher Report, and he's doing his Paul's House thing on YouTube for You Max It.
Please watch that. I think the last one was all right. I was quite happy with the last one. So yeah,
it's almost as funny as Steven Gerrard getting sent off.
All right, we will be back same time next week. See you then, Ed.
See you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.